Our system of justice is rightly seen as one of the best, if not the best, in the world. A large contributing factor to that is the fact that legal aid has been available, so that people, irrespective of their wealth and status, can gain access to our courts and be treated fairly and impartially.
Well, LASPO is a pretty rotten acronym, really, but it stands for the Legal Aid, Sentencing and Punishment of Offenders Act. The effect was to reduce the total spend on legal aid by about a third.
I.e., the government will no longer fund parts of family law and civil law, areas to do with debt, welfare benefits, some areas to do with housing.
As a result of LASPO, citizens advice bureaus are closing, local law centres are closing. There are increasing advice deserts where someone will want to seek access to justice, but there's no one trained in that area to give that kind of advice. We have people turning up at our offices with suitcases packed and their children in tow. We had a case where a mother approached us with her 3 children. She'd been with a partner at the point of initially approaching us, and because their household income was just slightly above the legal aid threshold, we'd been unable to offer assistance under legal aid. She returned to us with her suitcases and her 3 children after she'd broken from her partner. And under Section 17, we were able to approach the local authority's children's services and have her housed. It's an incredibly expensive process for children's services. And in the meantime, she'd been in a 1-bedroom property in an outer London borough with her 3 children.
Since LASPO, we've seen a really dramatic rise in the number of calls with single parents asking us for help with legal issues. Parents often don't have the means to dispute unfair financial arrangements following separation. So, for example, we had a caller who contacted the helpline with a financially controlling ex-partner for whom she had separated, and she got a letter from his solicitor saying that he was claiming 80% of the equity in their shared home, even though she'd been a stay-at-home mother for many years looking after their children. She was dyslexic herself and felt too intimidated and had no idea how to, go to court and represent herself, and therefore it went unchallenged.
Well, I certainly find in my constituency, so postbag, that the lack of access to early legal advice very often means that people don't know what to do. A lady came to my surgery not long ago where she had actually been evicted that day. She hadn't understood the court papers, the forms, and she's got all her possessions, if you like, in a car. Now, that's pretty dire. If it wasn't easy for her, I could see a range of issues, and she needed help from a number of agencies, frankly.
The financial aspect of bringing a case to court is significant. We see many people who hold down very good jobs, who earn well, representing themselves as litigants in person.
I was a director of a FTSE 100 company, and I uncovered a financial inconsistency. I was then dismissed, and all of a sudden it was all gone. I had a complete mental breakdown at that point. I was able to claim a disability-based benefit, but our local council axed our housing benefit, £1,000 a month out of pocket, and at that point we were entitled to a right of appeal. And the only solution, because we don't have the money to pay for a barrister, is that we do it ourselves. I'm then spending every moment I've got available going on the internet, ringing up friends who have worked as solicitors, and the day before the hearing I ended up catatonic. I couldn't move, I couldn't get out of the chair. Fortunately, my wife rings a friend who helps me shave, dress, get in a car, gets me to the tribunal with all the paperwork. The degree of stress that you're under at that moment, and literally I am shaking. I can't thank the judge enough, because if it wasn't for her understanding, her fairness and even-handedness, and the rebuke she gave to the council when she got to the end of it, the council wisely made the decision to reimburse us the funds that they'd withheld from us, which was £15,000.
Thousands and thousands of people every day are going through the court process with very little or no help at all. You will see regularly in court people having panic attacks in the waiting areas. You'll see people who can't speak, who've literally been struck dumb because they're just so overwhelmed and so nervous. On one occasion, I arrived for work and there was a woman on the floor outside the court. She just collapsed because it was so overwhelming. And she was feeling that she was unable to go into the court building, she was unable to go through with that process. Fortunately, she happened to be at a court where there's a PSU, and we were able to bring her into the office, calm her down and explain the process to her and be by her side when she went into court. And she did manage to get through it. In human terms, the cost is huge. In terms of court time, the cost is also huge. There have been studies done that show the average case takes about 3 times as long.
The cost of the court time, it's not just the judge, it's the building, the ushers, the court staff. All of that actually is a cost on the public purse. And if that's not being used efficiently, that actually is wasted money. And you might be better off to have invested in that early legal advice to start with.
My view is that the cuts to the legal aid budget are a false economy, because all that's happened is the problem has moved to other areas that are funded by the government, and it's caused further problems because those people would have their issues resolved earlier on. Also, we've got 1 or 2 cases involving constituents that are facing criminal proceedings. It's much harder to access legal aid for criminal justice.
From my professional point of view, the legal aid cuts have not been value for money. I think there's a moral and a practical case for changing the current situation. I think it's counterproductive.
Nobody can ever repair the 12 months of injustice that my family went through. The fact that my son wanted to leave home and go and move into care because we were so destitute, but I'm worried about the other people who aren't so lucky, who don't have friends that they can turn to. That's why legal aid needs to be there. I'd say just consider that you could be in my shoes tomorrow.
The withdrawal of legal aid and the impact of justice cuts affects everyone. A society isn't fair if justice is only for the rich. And we are increasingly in a position where that is the case.
I think the thing that we've got to do is to make the case for why a proper level of access for everybody to the legal system is important. And investing in a good legal system saves money in the long term, as well as it's the right thing morally. We shouldn't be afraid to say that.